Victory is our special guest on Fresh today. Thank you so much, Victory, for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Oh, it's my joy, my pleasure.
Now, you are a Grammy Award winner, and look, we're going to get into all that and, of course, your brand new album, Glory Hour, very soon. But first of all, I want to start off by asking, what part of the world or city are we talking to you from today?
I am in Dallas, Texas, the United States.
Dallas, it's a very nice part of the world. I've been there once before, and it was very hot when I went. So, well, I imagine it's getting to that temperature now, right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. And
What?
is it actually winter time in Australia right now?
Well, yes, it's about to be winter, but it's already actually really cold. These last few weeks have been very chilly, so I can only imagine how cold it's going to get in the next couple of months.
Okay. Sorry to flip it on you. I'm asking you questions now,
No,
but
no, that's fine. No, you're
keep
more than
going.
welcome to if you like. I love that. But one thing I like to do sometimes at the start of interviews is what I like to call a fresh fast five. So it's a quick,
Okay.
rapid fire questions to get to know you a bit. Just
Okay.
your fave ice cream flavor.
Ooh, Cherry Garcia.
Oh, I've never had that before. That sounds good.
Yeah, it's by Ben and Jerry's.
Ah, yes. Awesome. I'll have to
Cherry's.
try that one time. Your favorite song to sing in church?
Hmm. His Eyes on the Sparrow.
Hmm. What's a small everyday thing that brings you joy?
That would be Sunrises.
Your
Yeah.
favorite movie?
Chronicles of Narnia.
The first one or
Yeah, first one.
yeah. Your favorite book?
Ooh.
It doesn't have to be the Bible, it's all right. Even though it can be, but
Okay. Well, yeah, I mean that's an obvious one, but like um the a memoir of Harriet Tubman. Um she was an abolitionist, a former slave who was became famous for defying slavery and escaping continually and then bringing others to come with her into freedom. And they called her Moses. Yeah, they call her
I
Moses.
love that. I have to
Yeah,
that's definitely one I should add on my reading list then.
yeah, absolutely. She's got so many stories.
Brilliant. Well, that's it. Just a few fantastic things now that we know about you, Victory. As I mentioned, you're a Grammy Award winner, and for many people listening and watching Fresh, and even Hope 103 too, I think you're a very new artist to us. Probably haven't heard of you before, but you have been around for a few years. So I guess tell us a bit of an introduction. Who is Victory Boyd?
Yeah, well, um, I am a singer-songwriter that tells stories that have to do with my life experiences. And my life experiences take me through a lot of trials, but continually, what I find in every single trial is that uh, Jesus is the answer for not only helping me survive, but also helping me overcome and find victory in every single trial. And so my music oftentimes has a folk uh, uh, tone to it because of the storytelling element and the guitar playing element. But this is my first um, like this is my first album that we just released that is overtly proclaiming the gospel. In my prior projects, it was more storytelling where the gospel is interwoven into the themes. Um, um, because my goal is to um, less my goal is not necessarily to preach as much as it is to testify, to give an honest, accurate account of what happens in my life and how when I just tell the truth, uh, you'll truthfully be able to see how Jesus saved me and and is still saving me and is still helping me and carrying me through. And it's never to be superhuman or anything like that. That's never my goal. But to actually show off my weaknesses, because it's when you see the reality of my humanity, then that's where the contrast of his divinity becomes all the more relevant, all the more clear when you experience my music, because there's a lot of power in my music, but that's because the power of God has been with me all throughout every part of my journey, and I do my best to encapsulate it in the music as a testimony, just to show people what actually has gotten me through, and so that's really like the paradigm through which I create. Sometimes people have a hard time categorizing me because what box do you put it in? What genre do you put it in? Is it gospel? Is it Christian? Is it R&B? Is it folk? Is it soul? And I would say it's all the above, but it's not limited to any of those. Because life is very complex with a lot of different facets, and I try to encapsulate the fullness of life in all the nuances thereof.
Listening to this album over the last few days, I was struck by I guess both the simplicity, you could say, but straightforwardness of the gospel message presented within the songs. But they're obviously very personal songs too. But then musically, as you say, it ranges from gospel, R&B, jazz, soul, and you've also got a distinct voice too, which helps, of course, the music and the lyrics stand out in a fresh way. I guess, what was it like? You're signed to ROC Nation, Jay-Z's label. Tell me, what was it like when you had that conversation, maybe with him or the people around you, saying, look, I want to make a straight up gospel album, or, Christian album, I guess. What was the response, I guess? Or how did you get to, the genesis of the album?
Well, that was a journey, I'd say, of building trust, and building a track record at my record label, and also demonstrating value. And so after winning a Grammy with the album Jesus is King on Kanye's album, that project broke so many records and barriers, and it was a proof of concept that a gospel album could be released from mainstream and still be successful and be a top-selling record. And so because of that proof of concept, and because of the fact that I was a part of making that project, it set up a good case for this album and for taking a chance. And don't get me wrong, they took a chance, but I believe that it's going to pay off in the long run, because if you think about it, I did this on purpose. I designed many of the songs around scriptures, and if you think about the Bible, there was no marketing strategy for the Bible. There was no publisher to make sure that it gets organized and published far and wide. I mean, sure, there are some publishers, but that's not what the success of the Bible comes from. It comes purely from the power of the Word of God on its own merits. Like, it's not even about some famous celebrity or some famous person that has clout. It's not even about talented people. Jesus literally used people that were not that clever or wise according to the world standards. He just got some regular Joes, and chose them to carry his word and amplify it in all around the world, and look at how it's still resounding today. You know what I mean? So if that could happen, if God could use them, right? Just think of it this way: God is not done using people. You know what I mean? And so I wanted to position myself to be used by God to amplify His words, and just let it ride on the merits of the spoken word of God, and I believe that this album will go down in history and that it'll resound through generations, simply because it's not even about me at this point. It's not about how good I am or how good I'm not. It's like God's word is God's word, period. And if I could just be a container, it's like I'm already coming alongside an already finished work, an already successful victory. I'm just packaging what he's already done, and getting in on this already, eternally successful throughout all ages work that Jesus did. You know what I mean? And so the whole idea of this album was to simply package and present what Jesus has already done through my artistry, and betting on his success, and yeah, that's it. And I got ROC Nation to trust me as I trust God. So yeah.
I love that. That's look, I think I agree with everything you've said. I get what you're saying, but I do think it does take, especially let's say for the audience or the person that maybe they hate God, maybe they're an atheist, maybe they've just had no experience with God or an encounter with Jesus before, but they hear your song on the radio, on a streaming service, however it is they come across one of your songs. And I do think you do have to give credit to, I mean, I know it's the voice that you were born with, your God-given voice, but I do think that one of the captivating things about your music is also your voice and the timeless sound and production, I guess, around the song, around the lyrics, you say, which are scripturally based and timeless as well in and of themselves, and eternal. But how did you go about with, I guess, trying to form the different sounds of the album? Because as you've said, you explore different styles, and you also, obviously, apart from your own original songs, you also cover some classic hymns like "Great Is Thy Faithfulness," and it's just really powerful stuff. But I do think the music and the production has to do with it too. But tell me a bit about the process, your thought process going into that side of the album too, and how you wanted it to
Oh
sound.
yeah. Definitely, it's a big part of it. It's like it's almost like the branding. If someone has a piece of gold and it's raw, right, and or maybe it's rough around the edges, and they want to present it to you. If they just hand it to you like a rock, you might handle it lightly and toss it off to the side. But if they put it in a case that is like elaborately crafted, and the case really sets context for how precious this asset is, now you're inclined to receive it and not just treat it like it's a regular rock. You know what I mean? And so the casing and the container, is very important, and that's how I see myself and the music and everything. And so the goal, I really took a page from Kanye's book. That experience, that creative experience, showed me the power of collaboration, and how he had, I mean, what most people probably don't realize is that he's very humble in that, um, he doesn't try to do everything. He knows that each person was designed by God to be infinitely great at a particular thing. Like God put a gift in each of us, and if each person is operating within their gifting, even if your gifting is only to have a sensitivity for how to program hi-hats, like there's a place for you on that team, because he wants the best of every kind of creative to sit right in their lane. And so when I saw that, and I saw how the symphony of all these creative minds working together at the top of their game, doing what they are the best at, probably better than everyone. That's how that album came to be. And so I didn't quite have the same resources as Kanye to pull the best of the world from every sphere into working on my album, but there were quite a few creatives that I could see, oh, this person is genius at film score. This person is genius at hip hop beats. Oh, this one is genius at Afro beats. This one. And so like I was able to pull specific creatives together to do what I know that they are brilliant and genius for, and then bring in my voice. And I got everyone to agree that, you know, this is not a regular album. Our goal is to be a plate, a decorative plate that presents the meal, or the container that presents the gold nugget. Like it's not, we're not presenting ourselves. Like we're not even presenting my voice. It's all a vehicle to present what the actual substance is. And so that was our goal in creating this.
Now, with Glory Hour, yeah, you have 18 tracks on the album, and as I say, a mix of originals and a few covers of traditional songs. But I want to talk about one of the tracks on the album, and feel free to highlight any others as well. But Just Like in Heaven for me is a highlight of a beautiful original track. You've mentioned it's essentially a prayer. Tell me a bit more about that song.
Yeah. You know, Jesus says to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. And so that prayer is so powerful. I was inspired to expound on this concept and specifically go into all these many different parts of society and culture that we see deficit, that we might find ourselves living in hell on earth, you know. But this is why we're told to pray, thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven, because we have the power to change the circumstances of what we're experiencing on earth simply through the power of prayer and coming into agreement with heaven over the circumstances that we see. And so I wanted to give people a tool that would help them invoke the provision that Jesus made, and it be fun, you know. You know, just you might just be jamming out in the morning and not even realize the spiritual impact that you're having just by allowing your soul to agree with thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. So yeah, that was the goal.
I agree. It is one of those songs you can jam out to. I think, yeah, apart from the lyrics, it was just halfway through the song, I was just like, yeah, this is a jam. I could definitely see myself just dancing to this, or turning this up on a good speaker system.
Yeah, that's it.
I want to backtrack a little bit as well, back to the moment you mentioned you worked on Kanye's album Jesus is King, but that album won a Grammy and you won a Grammy for your work on that album. Tell me a bit about that moment, because I've heard from, well, not necessarily personally, but more so when I've seen people talk about artists and creatives, no matter what level they're at, a lot of people seem to talk about the Grammys or winning a Grammy as a surreal moment, but also sometimes not feeling like they deserve it, or feeling very humbled by it, and sometimes, especially I think older creatives will say at some point, oh, you can win all the Grammys in the world, but it won't bring you happiness, which, sounds kind of obvious. But I guess for you personally, what was that moment like, winning that Grammy, and how do you look back on it now that it's been a couple of years or so?
Yeah, well, honestly, uh, for me, so many aspects of success in music, I kind of believed what happened even when I was a kid, like when I was just starting out in music. And I never stopped believing that it was just going to happen someday. And so, um,
Sorry, in terms of your success as a musician, or?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I remember finding out that we won, and I did, I didn't think very much of it. at the moment. I was just kind of thinking, well, of course we won. It sounds conceited, but like I didn't. Not that I feel entitled, but it's almost like um, it's almost like uh, you believed it so much, so when it happens, it almost sounds. It's almost just like it's almost like it already happened. You know,
Right.
it's okay. Here's an example of the same concept. Remember that book I told you was my favorite book, about Harriet Tubman? She started. She was an abolitionist, right? So she was fighting to end slavery. She was a spy that represented the North in the Civil War, and um, God told her that slavery was going to end very soon, in this fight, and she believed that it was going to end because God told her it was going to end very soon, and she started rejoicing. She started having a party and celebrating, and because she she believed, oh my gosh, I mean, we've been sitting here fighting, but this demonic thing called slavery is about to be over. And so then when it actually did end a year later, everyone's celebrating, oh my gosh. And she's still working like nothing happened. It's because in her book it was kind of already done. And it was done in the spirit, and it was just only a matter of days before we started to see it. And so yeah, honestly, in my mind, when that happened, um, I I looked at my phone and saw that we won, and I was like, oh, that's amazing. And then I kept working, like we have a lot of work to do, because here's the thing. When you do an album, like for example, I finished Glory Hour about 9 months ago, 10 months ago. It only just came out this month, and it's not going to be nominated for any awards until next year, which means if I win a Grammy for this album, I'm going to be getting an award when in January or February, whenever the Grammys are, for a work that I did 4 or 5 years before that moment. And so within those 4 or 5 years, you have to start doing more work in order, you know what I mean? Like you don't stop and wait let's see what the, you know what I mean? So it's like suddenly all of these celebrations that are happening extremely late, after you actually need it to be celebrated, you know, suddenly they're in the way of the work thing that is on your desk for today. It's like, you know, and so uh, I believe this work is great. I believe the work with Jesus is King was historic and monumental. I remember walking out of that studio sleep deprived when we finished it, and staying up 40 hours at the tail end just to finish. Um, and I knew we just fought a valiant fight, and we just did a huge work. And there was nothing more that I needed or wanted at that moment than to be celebrated and to say, good job, faithful servant. But, you know, usually that moment comes years later. And you know when you finish that, oh, the world might not know it now, but one day they're gonna all, like, so many people are gonna be grateful for the fight that I fought today. And so that's just an insight into, you know, this journey is like so many artists. It's like someone who just found the invention to cure cancer. They know that they just won and fought a valiant fight and won this huge epic battle, but it hasn't been introduced to the market yet, so we might not know. And so then when they win a Nobel Peace Prize or whatever, you know, they're not so surprised because they knew for years that they made history in creating the cure for cancer. You know what I mean? But it's like it maybe took 5 years for the world to find out the great work that they did. And so yeah, it's really, I guess, and this comes back to your question in that, you know, if you need a Grammy to keep your work going, you probably won't get around to doing the work. You know what I mean? Because usually the celebration and the recognition comes far too late for it to do anything effective in supporting you in your journey. And so it then becomes like a sticker, an add-on, you know, later on. But for the most part, you have to keep your head down and continue to make history, even though it might not be honored or acknowledged or even seen for years, you know. And you just have to believe that you are indeed making an impact and making history.
Wow, thank you so much for that answer. I really appreciate that insight, and to me that does make sense. But yeah, I think that's a side that we don't really hear about as much, maybe as the audience or the consumers of any particular media. But of course, yeah, the time and effort. I mean, as content creators, or myself working at radio, this kind of thing too. Yeah, you know about the time and effort that you put into, obviously the concept of it, or coming up with it, and then the execution of it, and putting it out into the world, and then maybe seeing the response, etc. So, yeah, I think, yeah, if you're searching just for that recognition all the time, then yeah, you're not going to get anywhere. But
Yeah.
I mean, this album has been out for a little while now, well, a few weeks or so. Has there been, I'm sure you've heard some feedback already. What's some of the maybe real world impact that you're already seeing, maybe even just amongst your family or friends?
Yeah, absolutely. You know, it's the messages for me that I receive on Instagram, and people just writing out heartfelt messages of how the album has served as a tool to help them overcome anxiety, or to help them face their fears, or whatever it may be. I was really moved to hear about a baby girl that was born. Her parents were listening to Glory Hour while going through labor, and so that was amazing. She was born to Glory Hour. Um, you know, another just other stories of people's favorite songs, and how they're finding freedom and um, and overcoming depression and different things. And so, really, I had to believe that, this is the impact. Really, it was so hard. Birthing this album. I'm going to use the term birthing. There's so many setbacks. I mean, it's been 5 years since I last released an album. And, when things get hard, it doesn't compel me necessarily to give up. But what it does is it lets me know that, if the struggle is this intense, then that means the glory on the other side of the struggle must be extremely intense as well. And so I just believed that so many people would be able to taste glory through these songs, and that must be why the darkness of birthing this album and the struggle was so intense for all these years. So yeah.
Well, sorry, go on.
No, I think we're just scratching the surface in terms of hearing the feedback.
For sure, yeah. I've listened to the album already 1.5 times, and
Ooh.
I can I wanted to listen to it 2 full times, but I didn't get the time. But no, it's look, I can already tell, honestly. To me, I love listening to music. I mean, that probably is obvious, but this album several times, like more than once, several times, just at unexpected moments, might have been a particular lyric or sound or the combination of them, just got me quite emotional, and these were, many of these were truths that I already know or that I already believe, but just being reminded of them or hearing them or being, hearing them in a fresh way just really touched my soul, so I can only imagine what it's like, especially for someone who is listening to this for the first time, maybe hearing the message for the first time, or even just being reminded of it if it's in a particularly difficult or dark situation in their life. So I just want to say, Victory, thank you so much for making this album. Thank you for taking the time to speak with me today. It's been an absolute pleasure, and I look forward to and excited to share this music with more people here and, of course, around the world for anyone who gets to hear this wonderful work of yours.
Thank you so much, Esky. It means a lot to have your support in amplifying this music, and I'm excited for the people of Australia to taste Glory Hour. So thank you.